On day 7 of being the billionaire's stand-in girlfriend, the whole internet was laughing at me. I figured I'd pocket my 10 million breakup fee today and walk away in style. Instead, the billionaire announced at the banquet right in front of everyone that I was the official girlfriend. Even the perfect first love he'd pined for got publicly slapped in the face. But when I realized every ex before me had been an actor he hired, I accidentally ripped open the earth-shattering secret of my own birth. Now, watching the billionaire drop to one knee, the hand pulling out the diamond ring is trembling slightly. The billionaire set his sights on me and made me his 10th girlfriend. The whole internet started betting on when he'd dump me. A month later, a video of the billionaire sniffling and calling me wifey leaked online. I shot up the trending list. Everyone waited to see me crash and burn, because today was the day Jason the billionaire was supposed to dump me. Everybody knows none of Jason's relationships last more than 7 days. And today was day 7 for me. Sitting tight to watch Isabel get dumped. Isabel's got no body and no look serves her right. Hearing all that, I poked the man beside me and arched a brow. So I hear you're breaking up with me. No sooner had I said it than an arm hooked hard around my waist. Jason's fox-bright eyes lingered on me, a faint smile tugging at his lips. What? You don't want me anymore? His low, velvety voice curled around my ear. I looked up, and that wickedly gorgeous face filled my vision. In a flash, the internet's verdict on Jason popped into my head. Handsome, loaded, domineering, ruthless. They said he'd never truly loved anyone. Every woman around him was just a way to kill time. He could be so cold-blooded he'd be calling you brother one minute and have you thrown in jail the next. But he was generous. After every breakup, he gave the woman 10 million. Honestly, I kind of wanted that 10 million. There's a banquet tonight. I've got a surprise for you. Jason smiled and slid a gilt invitation across with those long fingers. I glanced up at him. A surprise? He tilted his mouth. A big one. I looked at the invite, then back at him. Oh, was it a breakup banquet? In that case, my 10 million was as good as in the bag. Jason's banquet drew all the city's blue bloods. I slipped into the black gown he'd prepared. With one turn, I ran smack into his ex. Anna. Current girlfriend versus ex. Instant centerpiece of the party. All eyes swung our way. Look, Isabel versus Anna. This is gonna be good. They're not actually about to throw down, are they? Sorry to disappoint, because the very next second, Anna flew over and hugged me. Sister, congrats on your coming windfall. I patted her shoulder and flashed a bright smile. Right back at you. I really was about to get rich. Thinking about the 10 million landing tonight, I couldn't help a flutter of excitement. Everyone else at the banquet stared, dumbstruck. Why aren't they fighting? And why are they hugging? Anna and I traded a knowing look. They had no idea I'd already gotten tight with Jason's 9 exes. Even less did they know we had a private group chat. Group name: The X Alliance. The chat was especially lively today. XA: Congrats, Belle. Rich overnight. XB: Congrats, Belle. Free at last. XC: Congrats, Belle. No more being a stand-in. I smiled to myself. Jason had a secret about the girl he'd never gotten over. I'd seen a portrait in Jason's study of a teenage girl, pretty as a picture. He treasured it and never let anyone near it. Not even his 9 previous girlfriends had seen it. The first time I did, I was shocked not because she was beautiful, but because I looked a lot like her, right down to the teardrop mole at the corner of the eye, and I knew I wasn't her. I suddenly noticed every one of Jason's girlfriends had resembled that girl in some way. I just happened to be the closest match. Jason often praised my looks, said I was stunning. I admit I am. But I'm not stupid. He'd zone out, staring at the mole by my eye. When I saw that portrait, it clicked. He was looking through me, chasing someone else's shadow. But after tonight, I'd never be a stand-in again. I've always played nice. And Jason's always been generous. I'd already planned exactly how to spend the 10 million. Just then, a stir broke out at the entrance. A woman in a white gown glided in, all poise. Jessica's here! No wonder Miss Miller really is a beauty. Back from her studies, she's about to shake up the social scene. If you ask me, Jessica and Mr. Jason are a perfect match. Huh, does no one see Jessica looks a lot like Isabel? The words barely fell when every gaze snapped to me. I lifted my eyes with a small smile and met Jessica's probing look. Jessica, eldest daughter of the Miller family. She and I shared what? 70% of a face? No way, Isabel's not. Jessica's stand-in, is she? Someone shrieked. The hall exploded. No wonder Mr. Jason took up with Isabel. It was all because of Jessica. What a joke. How does a knockoff like Isabel have the nerve to show up in front of the real thing? Exactly. Today's banquet is clearly for Jessica's homecoming. Isabel being here is the punchline. The nasty whispers pricked at my ears. Everyone turned their mocking, contemptuous eyes on me. Anna stomped her foot in anger. They've gone too far. I smiled, patting her shoulder in comfort. It's fine. The only thing I cared about was whether my 10 million would land. Everything else? Irrelevant. Jessica, radiant in the crowd's admiration, kept glancing my way. I gave her a lazy smile, turned around, and leisurely picked up a piece of chocolate cake. Jason's banquets always served the best of everything. It'd be a waste not to enjoy it. You're Isabel? A cool voice sounded behind me. I turned slowly to find Jessica in her white gown standing there, eyes probing and faintly hostile. Jessica! Why bother talking to her? Yeah, someone like her doesn't deserve to speak to you. The women flanking Jessica fawned over her while sneering at me. Isabel, you'd better stay away from Mr. Jason. A woman like you isn't worthy of Mr. Jason. Jessica just stood there, letting them hurl their insults as if it were perfectly natural. I lowered my eyes and chuckled. If I'm not worthy of Jason, are you? Jessica frowned, clearly not expecting me to talk back. Her two lackeys flushed with anger. Someone like Mr. Jason deserves only a refined lady like Jessica. Exactly! Jessica studied abroad at a top university. All the major companies want her. And you're just a cheap knockoff who happens to look like her. There's no comparison. Hearing them, Jessica's irritation slowly melted into a smile. She gave me a cool look. You should learn your place. Learn my place? I laughed. Really laughed. Nearly doubling over. What's so funny? One of Jessica's lapdogs snapped, finally losing patience. She stepped forward and raised her hand to slap me. Jessica didn't even try to stop her, just watched, coldly, silently approving. My gaze chilled. I lifted my arm and caught the woman's wrist midair. And what gives you the right to hit me? I asked icily, word by word. Let go, you bitch, that hurts. Jessica's lackey screamed in pain. I sneered. And you think I'm cheap? Look in the mirror, bootlicker. She froze, face draining of color, unable to speak. None of them had expected me to fight back. Shock rippled through the group, especially Jessica, whose expression hardened as she looked me over again, eyes turning cold. I glanced at her and smiled thinly. I'd always lived by one rule. Don't mess with me, and I won't mess with you. But if you come for me, I won't just sit there and take it. Isabel, let Emily go, and I'll have her apologize to you, Jessica said coldly. Jessica! Emily looked stunned, staring at her. I don't want my welcome banquet ruined, Jessica said, her eyes flashing a warning. Emily stiffened, pressed her lips together, and nodded. She muttered grudgingly, I'm sorry. I lowered my head and laughed softly. Jessica's welcome banquet? Jason had insisted I dress up beautifully for tonight, promising a surprise. This was the surprise? I lifted my eyes to Jessica and released her hand with a cold flick. I wouldn't dirty my hands hitting her. Mr. Jason's here! Jason's here! Someone shouted. Every head turned toward the door. Jason strode in, dressed in a custom-tailored black suit, exuding quiet authority. He must be here for Jessica. This is Jessica's welcome party, after all. Right. Let's see how long Isabel can keep that smug face. She'll be dumped any minute now. Jessica's eyes lit up with delight, a shy smile curving her lips. The women beside her showered her with congratulations, taking the chance to step on me while they were at it. I lifted my gaze lazily toward Jason. At home, he usually wore loungewear, curled up on my shoulder like a lazy cat. This was the first time I'd seen him so dressed up. As Jason drew closer, Jessica's smile only deepened. I smiled faintly and turned to leave. Suddenly, an arm snaked around my waist, and that deep, magnetic voice murmured in my ear, "My little Belle, where are you going?" I looked up and met that devastatingly handsome face, just inches away. Jason's lips curved as his eyes locked on mine. So mischievous. "Didn't I tell you to wait for me here?" He pulled me close in full view of everyone, his tone impossibly gentle. I glanced past him at Jessica's bloodless face, smiled lightly, and hooked my arm around his neck. "You weren't here. I got bored." Jason chuckled, brushing my nose affectionately. "Then I'll stay with you." The crowd froze in disbelief. "What's going on? Wasn't Jason supposed to dump Isabel today?" "Yeah, this looks nothing like a breakup. Wasn't Isabel just Jessica's stand-in? And isn't this Jessica's welcome party?" The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to Jessica. Under everyone's gaze, Jessica stepped confidently toward Jason. "Jason, I'm back," she said sweetly, her every move poised and graceful. Jason, still holding me, turned lazily to glance her way and responded with a dismissive, the barest sound. Jessica's smile faltered, her hands clenched, though she kept her polite smile. "Jason, thank you for hosting my welcome banquet." Then she threw me a smug little look, as if to say, "See, you're just a stand-in. I'm the real one. Who said this banquet was for you?" Jason's cool, edged voice cut through the hall. Gasps rippled around us. His icy gaze landed on Jessica, sharp with warning. Jessica's pupils contracted. Her smile collapsed. "Jason," she stammered. But he didn't spare her a glance. Holding me close, he looked around the room and said evenly, "Thank you all for coming to celebrate the 1-week anniversary of Belle and me meeting. Allow me to formally introduce my girlfriend, Isabel." He lowered his gaze to me, eyes soft with affection. I blinked, taken aback. I hadn't seen that coming. "So the banquet was for me?" The crowd exchanged stunned looks. "What's happening? Jason didn't break up with Isabel? He's officially announcing her as his girlfriend? Impossible! His relationships never last 7 days." Jessica must be dying of embarrassment right now. She thought this was her welcome party, but it's clearly for Isabel. Jessica's face went pale, disbelief written all over it. She bit her lip hard, staring at Jason with tearful eyes. He didn't even look at her. Instead, he turned to me with a faint smile. "Girlfriend, will you do me the honor of a dance?" I caught Jessica's furious glare from behind him and raised my brows, smiling. "Sure." Jessica and her hangers-on stood frozen in the middle of the hall, utterly humiliated. Jason's arm tightened around my waist. His tone carried a trace of mock hurt. "Are they more attractive than I am?" I laughed and slipped my arms around him. Of course not. Only then did he smile in satisfaction, leaning down to whisper in my ear. "So, my love, how do you like this surprise?" I paused. "A surprise? Huh. Honestly, I still mourned my lost 10 million a little, but seeing Jessica's face crumble, totally worth it." I smiled and planted a light kiss on his cheek. "I love it. It's perfect." Jason's eyes darkened slightly as he laughed and pulled me tighter. "Jason, are you still mad that I left without saying goodbye back then? Is that why you brought her to make me jealous?" Came a trembling, tearful voice from behind us. Jason's brows drew together in irritation as he turned coldly. Jessica stood there, lips trembling, eyes brimming with pain. I arched an eyebrow at Jason. Should I step away? He only tightened his hold on me. "No need." Jessica's face went paper white. Clearly, she hadn't expected him to humiliate her this completely. Jason? She began again, but a gentle woman's voice cut in from behind. Jessica, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. I looked up to see a graceful middle-aged woman who bore a striking resemblance to Jessica. 7, maybe 8 parts similar. Her eyes, however, were fixed firmly on me. Mom! Jessica cried, instantly throwing herself into the woman's arms. The woman's gaze softened as she held her daughter, a flicker of tenderness flashing through her eyes. I cast her a lazy glance. Mrs. Steve Miller, Jessica's mother, the legendary Iron Lady of the business world. So she'd come personally to back up her daughter, huh? Steve patted Jessica's back, then looked up at Jason with a polite smile. Jason, Jessica was being childish. I apologize if she caused you trouble. Jason glanced coolly at the girl in her arms and said without the slightest courtesy, she did, in fact, cause trouble for my girlfriend. Then I'll have to trouble Aunt Steve to teach her daughter some manners. His words dropped, and the entire room fell silent. Even Steve froze, while Jessica's eyes turned red, looking pitifully close to tears. Steve recovered quickly. She looked up at me, smiling politely. And this must be Jason's girlfriend? Jessica was out of line before I apologized on her behalf. Her tone was perfectly courteous, leaving no room for reproach. I smiled faintly. You're too kind, Mrs. Miller. But children need discipline. Parents can't protect them forever. Don't you agree? My eyes gleamed as I met hers. Steve paused for half a second, then smiled in return. You're right, Miss Isabel. I'll be sure to discipline her properly. Jessica glared at me in anger, wanting to retort, but Steve tugged her away. She gave Jason and me a final nod, then led Jessica out. Jason lowered his eyes to me and chuckled softly. Belle, feel better? I looked up, meeting those teasing eyes, and smiled slowly. It did feel good, but thinking of the 10 million I'd lost still made my heart ache. Unsurprisingly, I was back on the trending list. Topics like Jason and Isabel, Isabel versus Jessica, and Jason's girlfriend dominated the hot search. The X-Alliance group chat wouldn't stop buzzing. XA. Oh my God, Belle, you've made it. XB. Belle, you're amazing. XC. Belle, you actually tamed Jason. You're my idol. Anna, you guys don't even know. Belle totally crushed Jessica in public, so satisfying. Finally, someone stood up for us. I rubbed my temples and replied, but I lost my 10 million. Anna, girl, think big. The richest man alive won't let you miss out on that small change. X-Alliance. A low magnetic voice sounded beside me. My hand holding the phone trembled slightly. I looked up, meeting Jason's amused gaze. That? I blinked, scrambling for an excuse. Before I could speak, a long, slender hand appeared, holding out a bank card. I blinked at him. What's this? Jason smiled, lips curving. An anniversary gift. 3 million inside. My eyes lit up instantly. 3 million. The man really lived up to his billionaire title. You don't want it? Jason lifted the card, arching a brow. I want it. Of course I did! Hesitating even a second would be an insult to 3 million. I snatched the card from his hand and beamed. Jason chuckled, pulling me into his arms and leaning lazily against my shoulder. Little money grubber. I lowered my gaze to the card and murmured, for most people this could save their lives. Then I looked up, looping my arms around his neck with a grin. Don't you hate that I'm greedy? Jason's eyes softened. He tightened his arms around me. As long as it's you, I'll love every version of you. His deep voice sank gently into my ear. I trembled slightly, then smiled, hugging him tighter. Soon after, I received an invitation from Mrs. Steve Miller. She wanted to meet me alone for dinner. Jason glanced at me, eyes dark. Are you sure you don't want me to come? I hooked his arm and raised a brow. Afraid they'll bully me? Jason looked down at me, suddenly smiling. He reached out to ruffle my hair gently. I'll be right here. Do whatever you want. I tiptoed up to kiss his cheek and smiled. I'll be fine. He nodded as I turned and entered the private room. Inside sat only Steve, elegantly dressed, rising with a practiced smile. "Miss Isabel, thank you for accepting my invitation." I sat down lazily, smiling sweetly back. How could I dare refuse an invitation from Mrs. Miller? Steve hesitated for a second, keeping her smile as she sat a day. "You know, Miss Isabel, you look very much like someone I once knew." She studied my face, as if searching for something familiar. I laughed softly. "Just someone you knew?" My eyes lifted, cold and sharp. Steve's pupils shrank, her smile faltering. "Are you really? Jennifer?" "Jennifer." I smiled. It had been so long since anyone called me that. I'd almost forgotten that name. Steve's expression shifted dramatically as she whispered, "I should have known. The moment I saw you, I should have realized. You look too much like me. How could you be anyone else, Jennifer?" She stared at me in disbelief. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Miller, but my name is Isabel." I looked at her calmly, void of emotion. "Jennifer, I'm your mother," she said, her face full of sorrow. "You still hate me, don't you?" I lowered my eyes, smiling faintly. "Mrs. Miller, one shouldn't claim kin at random." Steve flinched, her face etched with grief. "Jennifer, I had no choice back then." "No choice?" I laughed coldly. "You mean I was the burden that stood in the way of your rich marriage? So you plotted to get rid of me. Even stood there watching as the traffickers took me away, didn't you?" My voice was icy, each word sharp as glass. Steve's eyes widened in horror. "You know," I laughed, tears stinging my eyes. Of course I knew. I'd seen her that day, hiding behind the corner as I was dragged into that van, watching with dry eyes. That was the moment our bond as mother and daughter was severed. While I was locked in a dark cellar, starving and beaten, Steve was walking down the aisle in her wedding gown, glowing as she married into wealth. How could I ever forgive her? "Jennifer, I did look for you," she sobbed. "The moment they took you, I regretted it. I called the police. I really did, but they couldn't find you." I sneered. "And then you just moved on, married into the Miller family, and became Mrs. Miller, right? Did you know, while I was forced to beg on the streets, your wedding was being broadcast on the big screens? When I was beaten half to death, the news was celebrating the birth of your precious little princess. Tell me, is that what you call regret?" My gaze bored into her, ice cold. Steve's lips trembled, but no words came. Then, as if struck by a thought, she fumbled in her bag and pulled out a bank card. "Jennifer, I know I owe you. There's 10 million on this card." I glanced at it, smiling thinly. "How generous of Mrs. Miller. Is that my hush money?" Steve flinched. "No," she whispered, gripping the card tightly. After a long pause, she said quietly, "Jennifer, Jessica is your sister. She loves Jason." I laughed. "So it wasn't hush money, it was a bribe to make me leave Jason." I took the card from her hand with a smile. "I'll take the money, but I'm not leaving Jason. This isn't payment, it's repayment. A debt the Miller family owes." I stared at her coldly, watching panic flicker in her eyes. I smiled faintly and turned to leave. The debt of the Miller family. This was only the beginning. Outside the door, I saw Jason's tall figure striding toward me. He pulled me straight into his arms. "Let's go home," he murmured, his deep voice wrapping around me. His hand clasped mine tightly, warmth seeping into my palm. I smiled softly and let him lead me away. Back home, Jason watched me like a hawk, as if afraid I'd do something reckless. I laughed and leaned into him. "What's wrong? Don't you have work today?" Jason arched a brow. If I still had to clock in every day, what would be the point of paying all those people high salaries? Charity? I burst out laughing. He had a point. "By the way, that card, donate it for me." I handed him the one from Steve. Jason took it, glancing at me. "Donate it?" I nodded lazily. "It's dirty." He chuckled softly. All right. I looked at him, hesitating for a beat before saying quietly, Aren't you going to ask me? Jason ruffled my hair gently, voice warm. You'll tell me when you're ready. I froze for a moment, then smiled and wrapped my arms around him. How lucky was I to have someone like Jason? That night, my phone buzzed with threatening texts. Isabel, you don't deserve Jason. If you don't leave him, you'll regret it. I glanced at them, amused. Regret it? Honestly. I was looking forward to seeing what they'd try. Jason pulled me into his arms, raising a brow. What's so funny? I slipped my phone away and smirked. You'll see a good show soon enough. Jason paused. Don't hit too hard. I shot him a look. Worried I'll hurt your sweetheart? Jason flicked my nose, exasperated. Worried you'll hurt your hand. I laughed and snuggled into him. The next day, while I was out shopping, a group of men cornered me in an alley. They sneered. Not bad, no wonder even the billionaire fell for you. I gave them a lazy once-over and smiled. Thanks for the compliment. I guess. The leader blinked, then grinned. You've got guts. Shame someone hired us to teach you a lesson. Otherwise, I might actually like you. I lowered my eyes, smiling faintly. Before you do that, care to tell me who sent you? The man narrowed his eyes, just about to speak, when a cold, mocking voice rang out. Isabel, you really are shameless, huh? Can't keep your hands off any man? I looked up to see Jessica walking toward me, her face dripping disdain. Didn't I warn you to stay away from Jason? You didn't listen, so don't blame me now. She stopped right in front of me, her face twisted with mockery. I lifted my eyes and gave her a faint glance, then suddenly smiled. What are you laughing at? Jessica's tone turned sharp, her expression darkening with anger. Jealousy contorted her features. There was nothing ladylike about her anymore. I gave her a lazy, cold look. Jessica, do you really think no one knows what you've done? Her eyes flickered, confusion flashing across her face. I stared at her, voice icy and deliberate. A year ago, at the intersection you hit a woman. Jessica's pupils shrank violently. How do you know that? I let out a low laugh. There are no secrets that stay buried forever. You thought running abroad would save you? That your precious Miller family could cover it all up for you? Let me tell you this. Your crime will be paid for. By you. Jessica's eyes trembled. She narrowed them at me. How do you know all this? I met her gaze coldly. The woman you hit was my mother. When I escaped from the traffickers years ago, she had been the one kind soul who took me in. She was gentle, kind, and Jessica's car left her in a coma. While Jessica, the culprit, fled overseas and lived like a princess. Jessica suddenly burst out laughing, wild and cruel. So it was that bitch's mother. Figures that a whore's mother would be just as disgusting. So what if you know the truth? What can you do? You think after today Jason will still want you? Her sneer deepened as she motioned to the men behind her. They began to move toward me. I met her gaze and smiled coldly. Congratulations, Jessica. You've just become the disgrace of the entire high society circle. I raised my phone slightly. Jessica froze. You bitch, what did you do? I smiled faintly. Why, I just made your crimes public. Yes, I was live streaming. Jessica had no idea that everything she just confessed had already gone viral. She must be trending by now. Jessica's face twisted in fury. You filthy slut! Even if I go down, I'll drag you down with me. If you want your money, then get her. She screamed at the men behind her. They hesitated briefly, then rushed toward me. You're done for, Isabel. The whole internet will see you get ruined. You think Jason will still Jessica, stopped mid-sentence, eyes widening in horror. The men who'd been charging at me were now groaning on the ground in pain. I straightened, brushing my hands together lazily. Guess I was a bit rusty. It had been a while. Jessica stared at me in terror. How did you... I lowered my eyes and smiled. Did Jessica really think I was some fragile doll? Sorry to disappoint. A girl who escaped human traffickers doesn't come out helpless. Plus, I'd practiced taekwondo for years. Those thugs she hired, not even worth my time. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Moments later, several police officers arrived, subduing Jessica and her men. Jessica glared at me like a madwoman. "Isabel, just wait. Once I'm out, I'll make you pay." I laughed loudly. Did Jessica really think the Miller family could still save her? How naive. The Millers could barely save themselves. I picked up my phone, opened the news app, and held it out to her. Jessica glanced down, and her eyes went wide. "No, no way. The Miller family can't be bankrupt." I looked at her coldly. Did you really think the Miller family's dirty dealings would stay hidden forever? Their fortune had been built on crime and corruption. They'd destroyed countless families. Did they really believe justice wouldn't come? I gave her a thin smile. "You were right about one thing. Jessica trash runs in the family. You and your mother are both disgusting." Jessica stiffened, confused by my words. But I wasn't looking at her anymore. My eyes shifted to the woman standing just behind her, Steve, pale as a ghost. "Mom, help me!" Jessica whirled around, spotting her mother like a drowning person finding a rope. But Steve only looked at me with grief in her eyes. "Jennifer, is this what you wanted?" Sister against sister, family turned to enemies. "What sister? What family? Mom, what are you talking about?" Jessica looked bewildered. Steve met her gaze, sighing deeply. "Jessica, you and she are sisters." "What?" Jessica's face went blank in shock. I shot Steve a frosty look. "You're wrong. My mother had only one daughter, and she's still lying unconscious in a hospital bed because of your precious girl." Steve trembled, her lips quivering, unable to speak. I turned away from her and walked toward the end of the street, where someone was waiting. Jason stood there, smiling softly as he wrapped me in his arms. "You did well. It's all over now," he murmured. I lifted my arms to hug him back. "Yeah, it's over." The Miller family and Jessica were both sent to prison. The once beloved socialite had fallen harder than anyone could have imagined. She became the nation's most hated woman. I set down my phone and looked at the hospital bed. "Mum," I whispered, "I've avenged you. Please, wake up." But she lay still, unresponsive. I sighed softly, thinking Jessica had gotten off too easily. A warm hand rested on my shoulder. That deep voice spoke gently beside my ear. "Don't worry, I've already found the best doctors. She'll wake up soon." I turned to find Jason watching me, with eyes full of tenderness. I smiled faintly. "How did you know I was here?" I had never told him about my past or my mother, yet he knew everything. Jason took my hand, his gaze lowering slightly. "I was afraid you'd disappear. I was afraid once you finished what you set out to do, you'd walk away, that you'd leave my world and never come back. Belle, I'm scared of losing you." He pulled me close, his burning eyes locked on mine. "Will you leave me?" I hesitated. The truth was, I had once thought about it finishing what I needed to do, then leaving with my mother. But now I looked up at him and smiled suddenly. "Mr. Jason, are you confessing to me right now?" Jason's eyes lit up with hope. "If I were, would you stay?" I smiled softly. "I would." Jason's gaze deepened. He reached into his pocket and took out a small box, opening it slowly. Inside was a delicate ring. "Belle, will you marry me?" Jason looked at me with eyes full of love and anticipation. I curved my lips into a playful smile. "But I'm very greedy. Aren't you afraid I'll take all your money?" "If greed is the problem, that's easy," he said with a grin. "I've got plenty to spare. Take as much as you want. Every penny I have is yours." "I'm yours too." His charming eyes softened as he pulled me into his embrace. "So, Belle, will you marry me?" I leaned close to his ear, whispering softly, "I will." Jason's body shuddered slightly. Then he wrapped me tightly in his arms. His voice was gentle. I finally found the belle I love most. I laughed quietly. I had found the person I wanted to spend my life with, and he just happened to be the richest man alive. Guess I really hit the jackpot. A week later, the billionaire's wedding made headlines. Jason threw a 3-day celebration, declaring to the world that he'd married the woman he loved. Our ex-alliance group chat had a new name, the Rich Club. Everyone was congratulating me on getting rich overnight. I arched a brow. You all teamed up with Jason to trick me, and I haven't even called you out on it yet. The chat went silent. Then Anna replied, Hee hee, we just wanted to help you achieve your rich wife dream. I smiled. Later, I learned the truth. Anna and the others had never been Jason's girlfriends. They'd all been women he sponsored. I laughed and sent a bunch of red envelopes into the chat. Let's all get rich together. On the 7th day of our marriage, my mum woke up. The doctor called it a medical miracle. But I knew it was karma rewarding her kindness. A month later, I walked out of the clinic after a prenatal checkup, and Jason came running toward me, face full of worry. Honey, how did it go? I gave him a look and pointed at my belly. Doctor says no sex for a while. Jason's eyes lit up, then dimmed instantly. He stared at my stomach, his expression adorably pitiful. Honey, am I falling out of favor already? I rolled my eyes while he trailed after me, carrying my bag. Slow down, honey. Watch your step. He fussed, hovering protectively. Later, a video of the mighty billionaire Jason sniffling and calling me wifey went viral online. The whole internet agreed on one thing: the billionaire Jason was completely, hopelessly whipped.